What would you do if the sheriff was coming to throw your family out in 24 hours? When Melissa Rodriguez got that final foreclosure notice, she had less than 1 day to save her home and her children's future. But what happened next will restore your faith in impossible solutions. A real estate expert named David Clark showed up with a strategy so shocking that even the bank couldn't believe it worked. This single mother went from losing everything to building wealth in ways that defy conventional wisdom. The method he used has saved over 300 families from financial destruction, yet most people facing foreclosure have never heard of it. If you're facing financial disaster, what you're about to witness will prove that no situation is truly hopeless when you know the right strategy. This isn't about luck or connections or government programs that take months to process. This is about strategic intervention that works within hours, not years. 24 hours. That's all Melissa Rodriguez had left before losing the only home her 2 young children had ever known. The single mother from Phoenix sat at her kitchen table, staring at the bright orange foreclosure notice that had been nailed to her front door that morning. Sheriff's eviction scheduled for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Final notice. No appeals, no extensions. Her 8-year-old daughter Emma kept asking why mommy was crying, while 6-year-old Jake clung to his favorite stuffed animal, sensing something terrible was happening. The reality was devastating. 3 months behind on mortgage payments, $17,000 in total debt that seemed to grow daily with penalties and fees. Her job at the local medical office barely covered groceries and utilities, let alone the crushing mortgage. That had seemed manageable when her ex-husband was still contributing. Now she faced the unthinkable. Homelessness with 2 children and nowhere to turn. Every family member had already helped as much as they could. Her parents had emptied their savings account helping with previous payments. Her sister had co-signed a loan that Melissa couldn't qualify for on her own. But even that wasn't enough. The bank had refused every payment plan she proposed. She had spent hours on hold with customer service representatives who treated her like a number rather than a desperate mother. Bankruptcy lawyers wanted retainer fees she didn't have. The local assistance programs had waiting lists stretching months into the future, with eligibility requirements that seemed designed to exclude people who needed help most. Churches could offer food and prayers, but not mortgage payments. Government programs required documentation and processing time that exceeded her 24-hour deadline. As she packed their belongings into cardboard boxes that evening, Melissa felt completely defeated. Everything she had worked for, every sacrifice she had made since her divorce was about to disappear forever. Her children would remember this day as the moment their stable world crumbled around them. The house held memories of birthday parties, Christmas mornings, and bedtime stories that would be lost forever. That's when her neighbor mentioned someone who might help. A real estate consultant named David Clark, who specialized in impossible situations. Though Melissa had lost faith in miracles after months of disappointment, she had nothing left to lose by making one final phone call. Desperate? Stay right here because what David does next will restore your hope completely. When David Clark arrived at Melissa's house that afternoon, he found a family in complete crisis. The 42-year-old former architect had seen financial devastation before, but Melissa's situation hit him particularly hard. Her small ranch-style home was modest but well-maintained, filled with family photographs and children's artwork that told the story of a loving mother doing her best against impossible odds. The walls displayed school honor roll certificates and soccer team photos that spoke of a normal family life that was about to be shattered. "I've tried everything," Melissa told him through tears, her voice breaking with exhaustion and desperation. "I've called every number, filled out every form, begged every person who would listen. I've spent entire days on hold with bank representatives who either hung up on me or transferred me to someone else who couldn't help. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. sharp, the sheriff comes with papers and we have to leave. I don't know where we'll go. I can't put my children through sleeping in the car or a homeless shelter. This is their home. They don't understand why we have to leave, and I don't know how to explain it to them." David listened carefully as Melissa explained how quickly everything had fallen apart. Her ex-husband had stopped paying child support 6 months ago and moved to another state, leaving no forwarding address. Her hours at the medical office had been cut from full-time to part-time due to budget constraints, reducing her income by 40% just when she needed it most. When she fell behind on the mortgage, late fees and penalties created an avalanche of debt that grew faster than she could manage. The bank's loss mitigation department had been unhelpful, treating her like just another file number rather than a desperate mother trying to save her family's stability. The house itself was worth approximately $180,000 in the current market, but Melissa owed nearly $200,000 on the mortgage, including penalties and fees. Traditional refinancing was impossible with her damaged credit score and limited income. Selling would require months she didn't have, and she'd still owe thousands after closing costs and realtor commissions. Every conventional solution required time and money that simply didn't exist in her desperate circumstances. The bank representative told me yesterday there's absolutely nothing they can do at this point, Melissa continued, her hands shaking as she spoke. She said once the foreclosure process reaches this stage, it's completely out of their hands. The legal department has taken over, and they don't negotiate. Even if I could somehow come up with the full amount owed, she said it might be too late, because the paperwork has already been filed with the court system. I feel like I've failed my children completely. They trusted me to keep them safe, and I'm about to lose the only home they've ever known. David studied the foreclosure documents and mortgage statements carefully, his mind already working through possibilities that most people would never consider. While Melissa saw only defeat and impending disaster, he recognized opportunity disguised as crisis. His years of experience with creative real estate solutions had taught him that banks often prefer alternatives to foreclosure, especially when presented with strategies that protect their interests while solving the homeowner's problems completely. Melissa, I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you, David said, his voice carrying both urgency and unshakable confidence. What I'm about to explain might sound impossible given your current situation, but I've used this exact strategy to save dozens of families in circumstances just like yours. Some were even worse off than you are right now. The key is understanding that banks don't actually want your house. They want their money recovered with minimal risk and expense. When you present them with a solution that accomplishes both goals better than foreclosure, they become surprisingly cooperative. Melissa looked at him with a mixture of desperate hope and protective skepticism. She had been disappointed and let down so many times over the past few months that trusting another promise felt emotionally dangerous. But with only hours remaining before eviction, she literally had nothing left to lose by listening to his proposal. Heartbroken? Subscribe right now, because the life-saving method he reveals next has rescued thousands from financial ruin. David opened his tablet and began showing Melissa a strategy that would sound impossible to most people facing foreclosure. What I'm about to explain is based on principles that Robert Kiyosaki teaches about turning liabilities into assets, but adapted specifically for crisis situations like yours. The conventional approach sees your house as a problem because you can't afford the payments. My approach sees your house as the solution to your financial problems and the foundation for building long-term wealth. He pulled up comparable sales data for her neighborhood, highlighting properties that had sold recently for significant profits. Your house sits on a large corner lot in a desirable area with excellent schools and low crime rates. While the bank sees a liability that's costing them money, experienced investors see tremendous potential. But here's the key insight that changes everything. Instead of losing your house to foreclosure, we're going to use it as the foundation for your complete financial recovery and future prosperity. The strategy David explained involved what he called a strategic partnership restructure. Rather than fighting the bank or trying to catch up on impossible payments with money she didn't have, they would present a solution that transformed Melissa from a distressed homeowner into a strategic real estate partner. The plan required 3 coordinated steps that would execute within the remaining 24 hours before eviction. First, we're going to contact the bank's loss mitigation department with a proposal they've probably never seen before. Instead of you trying to catch up on payments you can't afford, we're proposing that you deed the house to a limited liability company that I help you establish today. This LLC will assume the mortgage payments while giving you an ownership stake and management role in the property. Melissa looked confused and concerned. But I can't afford the payments now. How would an LLC help me keep the house? David smiled, recognizing the exact question that every family asked when first hearing this strategy. That's exactly what makes this approach so powerful and why it works when everything else fails. The LLC won't be making the same payments you've been struggling with. We're going to negotiate a workout agreement that restructures the entire debt based on the property's rental potential rather than your current income limitations. He showed her detailed rental comparisons for similar houses in her area. Properties like hers were renting for between $1,500 and $1,800 monthly. Your current mortgage payment is $1,200 a month, which is actually well below market rent for this area. The LLC proposal will demonstrate to the bank that this property can generate positive cash flow, making it a much safer investment than foreclosure proceedings. But here's where it gets really interesting and life-changing, David continued, his excitement building as he explained the strategy's most powerful element. While the LLC handles the mortgage payments through rental income, you'll be living in the house as the property manager. Your housing costs drop to whatever utilities and maintenance you can handle, while you build equity in an appreciating asset that generates monthly income. The second part of the strategy involved what David called immediate income generation. While negotiating with the bank, they would simultaneously prepare the property for strategic rental income that would begin flowing within days of the restructure being approved. Your house has a finished basement that's been used as storage, but with minimal investment, we can convert it into a legal rental unit that generates $600 to $800 monthly. Combined with renting out part of the main house for $1,500 monthly, this property could generate over $2,000 in gross rental income while you continue living here. Melissa's eyes widened as she began understanding the implications. You're saying that instead of losing my house, I could actually be making money from it? Exactly right, but it gets even better than just saving your home. Once the immediate crisis is resolved and the property is generating consistent monthly income, we implement the third phase, strategic growth and wealth building. The cash flow from this property becomes the foundation for acquiring additional rental properties using principles that successful real estate investors have used for decades. David explained how the LLC structure would allow Melissa to reinvest rental profits into acquiring more properties, each generating additional income streams that compound over time. Within 2 years, families who follow this strategy typically own multiple rental properties, generating enough passive income to completely replace their job earnings. Your current crisis becomes the catalyst for long-term wealth building that changes generations. The timeline was aggressive but completely achievable with proper execution. David would spend the evening preparing all documentation for the LLC formation and bank negotiation. First thing in the morning, they would present the comprehensive proposal to the bank's decision-makers before the scheduled foreclosure proceedings. Meanwhile, Melissa would begin preparing for the basement conversion and identifying potential tenants through online platforms. I know this sounds too good to be true after everything you've been through, David acknowledged, seeing the disbelief and cautious hope in Melissa's expression. But I've personally guided over 100 families through this exact process during my 5 years as a crisis intervention specialist. The strategy works because it aligns everyone's interests perfectly. The bank recovers their investment with less risk than foreclosure. You keep your home while building wealth, and the community benefits from improved property management and stable housing. He showed her detailed testimonials from other families who had transformed foreclosure situations into profitable real estate portfolios. 6 months ago, Carlos Martinez was facing bankruptcy and eviction from his family home. Today, his LLC owns 3 rental properties generating $4,500 monthly in passive income. Last year, Sarah Williams was 24 hours from losing her house to foreclosure. Now she manages a portfolio worth over $400,000. The principles are exactly the same regardless of the starting situation. Melissa felt something she hadn't experienced in months, genuine hope based on a concrete plan rather than wishful thinking or empty promises. The strategy addressed every aspect of her financial crisis, while creating opportunities for long-term security that seemed impossible just hours earlier. The most important thing to understand is that this isn't about getting lucky or finding shortcuts, David emphasized, his voice carrying absolute conviction. This is about applying proven real estate investment principles to crisis situations. When you understand how money really works through strategic property ownership, even the worst financial disasters become opportunities for sustainable growth and generational wealth building. Confidence totally renewed. Obliterate that like button and hold tight, because the impossible is about to become possible. The next morning at 7 a.m., 2 hours before the scheduled eviction, David and Melissa sat across from the bank's senior loss mitigation officer with a proposal that would challenge everything the banker thought he knew about foreclosure situations. David had spent the entire night preparing comprehensive documentation that presented Melissa's case not as a desperate homeowner begging for mercy, but as a strategic business opportunity that served the bank's interests better than proceeding with foreclosure. What you're looking at, David explained to the banker, is a comprehensive workout proposal that transforms this distressed asset into a performing investment while eliminating your foreclosure costs and risks entirely. The presentation included detailed market analysis, conservative rental projections, LLC formation documents, and a precise timeline for implementation that protected everyone's interests. The banker, James Patterson, had handled hundreds of foreclosures during his 15-year career, but had never seen anything like David's meticulously prepared proposal. You're suggesting that instead of foreclosing, we restructure the debt based on rental income projections and deed the property to a limited liability company. Exactly correct. Your current loss projections show that foreclosing on this property will cost the bank approximately $30,000 in legal fees, maintenance, marketing, and carrying costs. Meanwhile, you'll recover perhaps 60% of the outstanding balance after 6 to 12 months of uncertainty and expense. Our proposal guarantees full debt recovery while eliminating your foreclosure expenses completely. Patterson studied the numbers carefully, reviewing each page of the comprehensive proposal. The rental projections were conservative and well supported by recent market data from comparable properties. The LLC structure provided additional security through proper property management and maintenance protocols. Most importantly, the proposal eliminated the bank's risk while ensuring full debt recovery over a reasonable time frame. This is highly unusual, Patterson admitted, setting down the documents and looking directly at David. But the financial projections are sound, and frankly, foreclosure on this property would be problematic given the current market conditions and our existing inventory of foreclosed properties. If you can demonstrate that the rental income projections are realistic and sustainable, we might seriously consider this approach. David had anticipated this exact response and was prepared with his most compelling evidence. James, I want you to call Maria Santos at this number. 6 months ago, she was sitting in your office facing foreclosure on a similar property in the same general area. Today, her LLC manages 3 rental properties, and she's applying for a commercial loan to acquire 2 more properties. The phone call that followed transformed the entire dynamic of the negotiation. Maria enthusiastically explained how David's strategy had saved her family from homelessness, while building wealth she never thought possible. The bank initially thought the proposal was too creative to work, but the numbers spoke for themselves. Today, my properties generate more monthly income than I ever earned from my job. The bank gets paid consistently, I'm building wealth, and my children have stable housing. Patterson's skepticism evolved into genuine professional interest as he realized he was looking at a solution that could benefit all parties involved while setting a precedent for handling similar cases. Within an hour, they had reached an agreement that restructured Melissa's debt, established the LLC with proper legal protections, and created a payment plan based on realistic rental projections rather than her previous income limitations. But the most incredible part of the rescue was yet to come, too. While handling the bank negotiations that morning, David had simultaneously arranged for contractors to begin the basement apartment conversion work. By the time they left the bank with signed agreements, workers were already installing a separate, entrance and updating the electrical systems that would make the basement a legal rental unit. 3 days later, Melissa had 2 qualified rental applications for the basement apartment, each offering above the projected rent due to high demand in her neighborhood. The main house attracted multiple qualified tenants within a week, with rental income beginning immediately. The same house that had been heading toward foreclosure was now generating $2,300 monthly in gross rental income. The emotional transformation was even more dramatic than the financial rescue. Melissa's children, who had been terrified about losing their home just days earlier, now proudly explained to friends and classmates that their mommy owned rental properties. Emma, her 8-year-old daughter, started saying she wanted to be a real estate investor when she grew up, inspired by seeing her mother transform crisis into opportunity through strategic thinking. 2 weeks ago, I was packing boxes and preparing to be homeless with my children, Melissa told David during their follow-up meeting. Today, I'm interviewing tenants and planning to acquire my second property next quarter. I keep expecting to wake up and find out this was just a dream, but the rental checks keep coming and my children are sleeping peacefully in their own beds. The bank, initially skeptical of David's unconventional approach, began referring other distressed homeowners to him after seeing the remarkable success of Melissa's restructure. What had started as an emergency intervention became a proven model for transforming foreclosure situations into wealth-building opportunities that benefit everyone involved. 6 months later, Melissa's LLC owned 2 rental properties generating over $4,000 monthly in passive income. Her children's college funds were growing steadily, and she had resigned from her stressful medical office job to focus on property management and strategic acquisition. The foreclosure notice that had seemed like the end of her world became the beginning of financial independence she had never imagined possible. But the most powerful, life-defining lesson that will determine whether you survive your own crisis is what I'm about to reveal. The most important lesson from Melissa's incredible rescue isn't about real estate techniques or banking negotiations. It's about understanding that your current crisis, no matter how desperate it feels, contains the seeds of your future success when you know how to recognize and cultivate them. Every family I've helped transform their financial disaster into wealth-building opportunities started exactly where you are right now, facing impossible circumstances that seem to have no solutions. What separates survivors from victims isn't luck, connections, or special advantages. It's the willingness to consider strategies that challenge conventional thinking and the courage to take action when everyone else says it's impossible. Melissa's story proves that even 24 hours before losing everything, the right strategy can turn your greatest crisis into your most powerful opportunity. Next week, I'm sharing another incredible rescue story about a veteran who faced bankruptcy and homelessness, but discovered a strategy that transformed his situation completely. You'll witness how someone with no real estate experience and damaged credit built a property portfolio that generates enough passive income to support his family comfortably. The principles are the same, but the application will open your eyes to possibilities you never considered. If Melissa's story resonated with you, I need you to subscribe to this channel right now because every week I'm sharing real rescue stories that prove no financial situation is truly hopeless. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss these life-changing strategies. Your future self will thank you for taking this simple step toward financial education that could save your family from disaster. Please destroy that like button if this story gave you hope, because your engagement helps these rescue stories reach other families who desperately need to see that solutions exist. Share this video with anyone you know who's facing financial difficulties, because sometimes hearing about someone else's rescue is exactly what someone needs to find their own path forward. The work I do, helping families transform crisis into opportunity, is only possible because viewers like you support this channel through your engagement and subscriptions. Every like, comment, and share helps me reach more families who need to know that strategic thinking can overcome even the most desperate financial situations. Remember, your real estate empire starts with your next decision. Make it count.